Imagine this. The courtroom is packed, the cameras are flashing, and the tension in the air is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Fans around the world are glued to their screens holding their breath, waiting to hear the fate of King Harris, the son of rap legend T.I. But nobody could have predicted the shocking twist that unfolded. The judge's gavel came down hard, sentencing King Harris to 5 long years behind bars after a jaw-dropping arrest that sent shockwaves through the Harris family. And right there in the middle of it all, T.I. himself completely lost control. Witnesses say the rapper crashed out in dramatic fashion, shouting, pleading, and even breaking down in tears as he begged the court to show mercy on his son. But the drama didn't stop there. Tiny was seen clutching her chest in disbelief. Family members argued in whispers and shouts, and fans flooded social media with explosive reactions. Was this just another example of fame's darkest price? Or is there more to the story than what we're being told? Stick around because what happened next will leave you stunned, questioning everything you thought you knew about the Harris Empire. The tension was already brewing long before King Harris ever set foot in that courtroom. Whispers about his reckless behavior, late-night parties, and brushes with the law had been circulating for months, but no one believed it would ever spiral into something this serious. After all, King was the son of T, a legend who built his empire from the ground up and who knew a thing or two about surviving the streets. Fans thought if anyone could keep their kid in line, it would be T. But behind the glamorous facade of music videos and award shows, a storm was brewing inside the Harris household, one that would soon explode for the world to see. The night of King's arrest is already becoming the stuff of urban legend. It began as a typical evening in Atlanta, but the city would soon be rocked by flashing blue lights and sirens screaming down the boulevard. Witnesses claimed King had been seen in a heated altercation outside a popular club. The details remain murky. Some say it was over money. Others claim it was over a girl. But what's clear is that it escalated quickly. By the time police arrived, fists had been thrown, tempers had ignited, and the chaos was spiraling out of control. King, wearing his signature chains and flashy designer fit, was reportedly yelling at officers, refusing to be cuffed. Cell phones were out, recording every second. "You don't know who I am," he shouted. A line that would soon echo across social media and news outlets alike. When word reached T, the rapper wasted no time. He stormed down to the police station demanding answers. Fans who were there swear they saw him pacing outside, phone pressed tightly to his ear, barking orders to lawyers and family members. Tiny, distraught and teary-eyed, was said to have begged him to stay calm, whispering, "Please, baby, don't make this worse." But calm was impossible. T's eldest son was facing charges that could change the rest of his life, and in that moment, the proud father who had always prided himself on discipline and strength cracked under the weight of fear by the time King appeared in court. The media circus had already erupted. Cameras lined the courthouse steps, reporters shouted questions, and fans filled every available seat inside. Everyone wanted to witness the next chapter in the saga of the Harris family. King entered in a pressed shirt and shackles, his face defiant but eyes betraying a flicker of fear. T and Tiny sat front row, their expressions unreadable yet heavy with emotion. Whispers filled the air. Would T's influence save his son, or would the judge make an example out of him? The prosecution painted a damning picture. They described King as reckless, entitled, and dangerous, a young man blinded by privilege and fame. They spoke of his repeated run-ins with the law, his social media antics, and his attitude toward authority. "This is not just about one fight," the prosecutor declared, his voice sharp. "This is about a pattern of behavior that threatens public safety." Gasps rippled through the courtroom as evidence was laid out. Videos of King taunting officers, photos of him flaunting stacks of cash, and testimony from those involved in the altercation. It was brutal, and each word seemed to drive a knife deeper into T's chest. But T wasn't about to sit quietly. When it was his turn to speak, the rapper stood tall, voice trembling yet fierce. "My son ain't perfect," he admitted, looking directly at the judge. "But he's still young. He needs guidance, not prison. Don't take my boy away before he has a chance to be better. His words hung heavy in the room. But the judge remained stoic, eyes fixed on King as though searching for any sign of remorse stopped behind the scenes. The drama was just as intense. Sonique T and Tiny's daughter was reportedly furious with King, accusing him of putting the family's reputation on the line. "You think this is just about you?" she hissed during a heated exchange in the hallway captured by paparazzi mics. "You're dragging all of us down." King, clearly agitated, shot back, "You don't understand. You've always been the favorite. Nobody ever had expectations for me." The argument nearly came to blows before Tiny intervened, begging both of them to stop. Social media, of course, exploded with opinions. Fans argued back and forth. Some defended King, saying he was just a young man making mistakes like everyone else. Others slammed him for being entitled and disrespectful. Hashtags like #FreeHarris and #LockHimUp trended simultaneously, reflecting the divided public. Memes flooded timelines, and every celebrity blogger had their own take. The Harris family, once admired as a unit of strength and resilience, was now being torn apart under the glaring spotlight. And then came the twist no one saw coming. Just when it seemed the judge might hand down a lighter sentence, citing King's youth and potential for rehabilitation, a surprise witness was called. A former associate of King's took the stand, revealing shocking details about the night of the arrest. He claimed King had orchestrated the fight, bragging beforehand about teaching someone a lesson and even daring police to intervene. He wanted the attention, the witness said, his voice steady but his words devastating. He thought nothing could touch him because of who his daddy is. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, murmurs, even shouts of disbelief filled the room. T leaped to his feet, furious, yelling, "That's a lie. My boy ain't no monster." Security had to hold him back as the judge ordered silence. Tiny sobbed openly, clutching her hands together as though praying for a miracle. King, for the first time, lowered his head, the bravado slipping away. It was as if the reality of the situation had finally pierced through his tough exterior. He looked over at his father, eyes glassy, and whispered something no one could hear. T's face crumpled, his tough exterior breaking under the weight of heartbreak. The judge, clearly moved but unmoved by T's outburst, announced that sentencing would be delivered the following morning. The family left the courtroom in chaos, reporters swarming, fans crying out, and cameras flashing. T walked out with his arm tightly around Tiny, his jaw clenched, fury in his eyes. King was led away by officers, shackles clinking with every step, his future hanging by a thread. And as the courthouse doors slammed shut, one thing became clear. The Harris family was facing the fight of their lives, and the world was watching every second of it. The next morning arrived with a sense of dread that clung to every corner of the courthouse. The sun rose slowly over Atlanta, but for the Harris family, it felt like a storm cloud refused to lift. The city buzzed with anticipation. News trucks camped outside the building, and fans pressed against barricades with signs reading "Free King" and "Justice for Harris." Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere was heavy, the kind of silence that made every cough and shuffle echo like thunder. Everyone knew this would be the day the judge revealed King's fate, and the weight of that truth hung in the air like an axe waiting to fall. King was escorted into the courtroom in the same shackles, though his demeanor had changed from the day before. The cocky smirk and fiery bravado were gone, replaced by a nervous, distant stare. His eyes darted to his parents, who sat in the front row, Tiny's face wet with tears and T's jaw clenched so tight you could almost see the veins popping from his neck. Zonique sat a row behind them, her expression cold and unyielding, still angry about the shame King had brought on the family. The tension between the siblings was palpable, though neither dared to speak. The judge entered, and the sound of the gavel striking wood silenced the murmurs. "We are here to deliver sentencing in the matter of King Harris," he announced, his voice stern and deliberate. The courtroom seemed to shrink in that moment, as if every soul inside was holding its breath. T leaned forward, his fists balled. Tiny clutched her rosary tighter, and King swallowed hard, his throat visibly trembling. Before announcing the sentence, the judge gave a scathing lecture. "Mr. Harris," he began, fixing his eyes on King, "you stand before this court as a young man with every advantage. Fame, wealth, opportunity, things most people only dream of. And yet you've chosen a path of recklessness, arrogance, and disregard for the law. This court has reviewed your history and considered the pleas of your family. But actions have consequences." His words cut like a blade, slicing through the already fragile atmosphere. T shook his head violently, muttering under his breath, "He's just a kid, man." Just a kid, and then it came. The gavel slammed once more, and the words fell like a bomb. 5 years in state prison. The courtroom erupted in gasps, cries, and shouts. Tiny screamed out, collapsing into T's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. T's eyes widened, and for the first time the man known for his unshakable confidence looked broken. "No, no, you can't do this," he shouted, standing to his feet. "That's my son. That's my boy. You can't take him from me." The judge sternly ordered him to sit, but T wasn't hearing it. He pounded the table, his voice raw with pain, as officers moved toward him. Tiny clung to his arm, begging him not to make it worse, whispering, "Baby, please, don't let them take you too." King sat frozen, his mouth slightly open, his hands trembling in the cuffs. For the first time, tears slid down his face. Not the tears of defiance, but of raw, unfiltered fear. He turned to his parents, whispering, "Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far." T, struggling against the officers trying to calm him, locked eyes with his son and shouted back, "We gone? Fight this. You hear me? This ain't over, King. This ain't over." The chaos didn't stop in the courtroom. Outside, fans screamed in anger and disbelief. Some shouted support, while others jeered, insisting the sentence was deserved. Social media exploded once again with hashtags like #JusticeForKing and #Harris downtrending worldwide. Celebrities chimed in too, some offering prayers for the family, while others criticized the sentence as being both too harsh and not harsh enough. One commentator tweeted, "If King wasn't T's son, this wouldn't even be news." Fame cuts both ways. But the real drama unfolded behind closed doors. Back at the Harris home, emotions boiled over. Tiny collapsed onto the couch, sobbing uncontrollably, while T paced the room like a caged animal. 5 years. 5 years. "They trying to destroy us," he muttered, slamming his fist into the wall. Zonique, arms crossed, finally spoke up. "He did this to himself, Daddy. You warned him. Mama warned him. But he kept acting like he was untouchable. Now look." T spun on her, his eyes blazing. "You think I don't know that? But that's my son. My blood. I can't just sit back while they throw him away." Zonique didn't flinch. "And what about us? Every time he messes up, we're the ones who got to deal with the fallout, too." Tiny, through her tears, tried to mediate. "Please, y'all, stop fighting. This family's already broken enough." But the words barely landed. T stormed out onto the balcony, pulling out his phone and barking orders into it. "Get me the best damn lawyer in the country. I don't care what it costs. We appealing this. I ain't letting my boy rot in prison." Meanwhile, King sat in a holding cell awaiting transfer, his mind racing. Gone was the swagger, the flashy chains, the cocky social media posts. Now he was just a scared 19-year-old facing years behind bars. He replayed his father's words in his head, "This ain't over," clinging to them like a lifeline. But deep down, fear gnawed at him. Could even T's power and influence save him now? The Harris family wasn't the only one fractured by the verdict. Friends of King began to distance themselves, worried that association with him would tarnish their own reputations. Rumors swirled about betrayal, some whispering that one of King's closest allies had cooperated with prosecutors to save themselves. The streets buzzed with speculation, and the narrative grew more tangled by the hour. Was King simply a victim of circumstance? Or was there a deeper plot at play? The night ended with T standing alone in his living room, staring at a photo of his family. Tiny had cried herself to sleep upstairs, Zonique locked herself in her room, and the house that once echoed with laughter and music now sat in silence. T whispered to himself almost like a vow. They think they broke us, but they ain't seen the last of me. I'm bringing my boy home. And with those words, the stage was set for a battle that would push the Harris family to their breaking point. A war not just against the legal system, but against each other. The days following the sentencing were a whirlwind of chaos, anger, and desperation. T barely slept, his phone glued to his ear as he called every lawyer, every connection, every favor he was owed. Tiny tried to hold the household together, but her nerves were frayed. Her voice cracking every time she answered a call from fans or family members asking about King. The world might have moved on to the next headline, but for the Harris family, time stood still. The only thing that mattered was getting King out, and T was prepared to wage war against anyone standing in his way, behind bars. King struggled to adjust to the reality of his new life. Gone were the bright lights and expensive clothes. In their place were cold walls, hard beds, and the constant tension of survival. The swagger that had once defined him was now replaced by paranoia and fear. He called his parents whenever he could, his voice low and shaky. "Daddy, I don't belong here," he whispered through the receiver. "These dudes, they look at me like I'm prey. I can't do 5 years." T clenched his jaw on the other end, fighting back tears, replying, "Hold your head, King. You stronger than you think. I promise you, I'm working on it. I'ma get you out." But inside, T was falling apart. The public image of the unshakable King of the South was crumbling under the weight of helplessness. At one point, he sat in his car alone after a meeting with lawyers, pounding the steering wheel until his hands bled, screaming into the silence. Why him, God? Why my boy? Tiny noticed the cracks too. Late at night, she sat next to T, gently rubbing his back while he stared blankly at the ceiling. "Baby, you can't lose yourself in this," she whispered. "We gotta stay strong for King. He needs us both." T shook his head, voice breaking. "They try to make an example out of him, Tiny. They want to see us fall, as if the legal nightmare wasn't enough. Family tensions only grew worse." Zonique, who had always tried to be the voice of reason, confronted T again. "You keep making excuses for him, Daddy. You keep saying he's just a kid, but he's been making the same mistakes over and over. At what point does he take responsibility?" T's face darkened and his voice rose. "You think I don't know that? You think I ain't told him 1,000 times? But that don't mean I let the system eat my son alive. You ain't a parent yet. You don't understand," Zonique fired back. "No, maybe I do understand. Maybe that's why I'm not the one being dragged in and out of courtrooms. Maybe I learned from your mistakes and his." The room went silent. Tiny bursting into tears at the clash between father and daughter. "Please," she begged. "We can't be fighting each other when King needs us the most." But the damage was done. T stormed out, slamming the door while Zonique retreated upstairs, muttering under her breath. Meanwhile, rumors swirled on social media that King had been placed in solitary confinement after a scuffle with another inmate. Fans panicked, spreading unverified stories of fights, threats, and even stabbings. Hashtag #PrayForKing began trending with thousands of posts speculating about his safety. T's phone buzzed nonstop, reporters hounding him for comment. He refused, but his silence only fueled more speculation. In one shocking twist, a leaked video surfaced of King in prison, pacing in his cell, shouting into the camera of a contraband phone. "They trying to break me, but I ain't broken. Y'all know who I am? My daddy gone, get me out. Watch." The clip went viral instantly, dividing fans even further. Some saw it as proof that King still hadn't learned humility, while others viewed it as a cry for help. T, upon seeing the video, threw his phone across the room, shattering it against the wall. "Damn it, King! You making it harder for me to help you," he roared. Despite the chaos, T pressed forward with his plan to appeal. He hired a top-tier legal team, sparing no expense. In private meetings, they discussed strategies, loopholes, and potential ways to reduce the sentence. "We got options," one lawyer said confidently. "It won't be easy, but with the right approach, We might shave years off this thing. T gripped the table, eyes burning with determination. I don't want years off. I want my son home. Whatever it takes. But not everyone in the industry was supportive. Behind the scenes, whispers emerged that some of T's rivals were reveling in his downfall. One unnamed rapper posted a cryptic tweet. Funny how the mighty fall when they think they above the law. Fans immediately speculated who it was aimed at. And the drama only intensified. Tiny, caught between supporting her husband and protecting her sanity, began to crack under the pressure. One night she broke down in front of T. What if we can't save him, baby? What if 5 years changes him forever? Her words pierced T like a dagger. He pulled her close, whispering fiercely, I ain't letting that happen. I swear to you, Tiny, I'ma die before I let them destroy our boy. Back in prison, King began to feel the weight of his actions. During one phone call, his voice was softer, almost broken. Mama, I shoulda listened to y'all. I thought I was grown, thought I knew everything. Now I'm in here, and none of them people I partied with, none of them friends. I partied with, none of them friends. They ain't here. It's just me. Tiny sobbed quietly, trying to reassure him. Baby, we hear. We always hear. You just gotta hold on. Daddy's fighting for you. The call ended with King whispering, Tell Daddy I'm sorry, before the line went dead. Tiny sat in silence, her heart aching, knowing she had to be the one to pass those words on. Later that night, she told T, who stared at her with glistening eyes. He didn't speak, didn't move, sat there with the weight of those 3 words crushing him. But T was nothing if not determined. He doubled down, setting meetings with publicists, strategists, and even activists. If the system want to play games, we've gone play too, he declared. This ain't just about King no more. This about every young black man they try to throw away. We've gone turn this into a movement. The family's pain was now spilling into the public arena, transforming King's personal struggle into a national conversation. Some praised T for standing up, while others accused him of exploiting the situation. The Harris name was once again dominating headlines. But this time, it wasn't about music success. Or reality TV. It was about survival, as week 1 turned into week 2. The cracks in the family deepened, the pressure intensified, and the fight to bring King home became more than just a legal battle. It became a war for redemption, reputation, the very soul of the Harris family. The weeks dragged on, and every day felt like a new test for the Harris family. While T poured his energy into appeals and public campaigns, the situation inside the prison grew darker. Whispers reached the family that King was being targeted because of his name. Some inmates saw him as a trophy, someone they could use to boost their own reputations. Others resented him, assuming he'd get special treatment because of who his father was. The rumors reached a boiling point when a guard allegedly leaked that King had been jumped in the showers. Leaving him bruised and shaken, Tiny nearly fainted when she heard the news. She clutched T's arm, begging him to do something, anything. He's not built for this, baby. He's just a boy, she cried, her voice trembling. T's face hardened like stone. They want war, then I'll give them war. They've not gone. Break my son. But behind the tough words was a father breaking into pieces. The appeal process was slow and grueling. T's lawyers uncovered inconsistencies in the prosecution's case. And there were whispers that one of the witnesses might have been pressured to testify against King. It was the kind of opening T had been waiting for. But time was slipping away. Every day in prison was a risk. Every night a battle for King's survival. Meanwhile, tensions at home continued to rise. Zonique refused to back down from her stance, telling Tiny in a hushed argument one night, Y'all keep treating him like a victim, but he made choices. We can't ignore that. Daddy's tearing himself apart, and it might ruin him too. Tiny, exhausted and worn, snapped back through tears. How can you be so cold? That's your brother. Don't you see what this is doing to us? Zonique's eyes softened for a moment, but her voice stayed firm. I love him, Mama. But I can't watch this family self-destruct because of him. T overheard part of their exchange and stormed into the room. You think this family ain't already been through hell? I've been fighting all my life for respect, for survival. For this family, and I'll be damned if I stop now. If you can't understand that, maybe you don't understand what it means to be a Harris. His words left Sonique stunned, and the silence that followed was deafening. Back in prison, King was spiraling. The weight of his sentence, the violence, and the isolation were eating away at him. One night he called T collect, his voice breaking. "Daddy, I don't know if I can do this. I don't feel safe. I can't sleep. I can't eat. They're watching me all the time. I don't want to end up dead in here." T's chest tightened, his heart aching at the sound of his son's fear. "Listen to me, King," he said, voice steady but thick with emotion. "You've gone make it. You hear me? I ain't letting them take you from me. You hold on, son. Just hold on." The conversation left T shattered. He walked outside into the dark Atlanta night, staring up at the sky, whispering a prayer. "God, if you're listening, give me strength. Don't let my boy fall." Then came a shocking twist. A prison insider leaked that King had been placed in protective custody not because of violence, but because someone had allegedly put a price on his head. The revelation spread like wildfire, and fans went into a frenzy. #protecting began trending. Celebrities posted supportive messages, and activists demanded answers. The prison was forced to release a statement denying the allegations, but the damage was already done. The world now saw King not just as a troublemaker, but as a young man in genuine danger. T seized the moment, launching a public campaign. He appeared on talk shows, gave emotional interviews, and even organized rallies. Standing before crowds with a microphone, he declared, "They trying to bury my son, but we won't let them. This ain't just about King, it's about every young black man who gets caught in a system designed to break us." We've gone fight back. The crowd erupted in cheers, and for a moment, foe made to transform into power. But behind the scenes, the toll was undeniable. Tiny's health began to decline under the stress, her once bright spirit dimming as she struggled to keep the family together. Late one night, she broke down in T's arms. "I don't know how much more I can take," she whispered. "I just want my baby home." T held her tightly, his own tears falling silently. King, too, was changing. During one rare visit, Tiny noticed how different he looked. His once playful eyes were hard, his shoulders tense. He leaned forward across the glass, his voice low. "Mama, I ain't the same no more. Prison changes you. I see things I wish I'd never saw. But I swear if I get out, I'll never go back to this life again." Tiny pressed her hand against the glass, tears streaming down her face. "You will get out, baby. We'll make sure of it." The appeal hearing finally arrived. The family returned to the courtroom that had shattered them weeks earlier. The judge listened to arguments, evidence, and emotional pleas. T spoke again, his voice raw. "Your Honor, my son has made mistakes, but he don't deserve to be thrown away. You got kids, you know what it means to fight for them. Give my boy a chance to change." The courtroom was silent as the judge considered the arguments. Every eye fixed on him, but instead of a resolution, the judge delayed the decision, saying he needed more time to review. The family left in limbo, their hope hanging by a thread. Outside, T addressed reporters, his voice steady but weary. "We gon' keep fighting. We ain't stopping until King is home." The saga of King Harris had become more than just a family tragedy. It was now a national spectacle, a story of fame, downfall, and the desperate fight for redemption. The Harris family stood at a crossroads, torn between hope and despair, unity and division, love and anger. And as they braced themselves for the next chapter, one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. And so, the Harris family's story hangs in the balance, a roller coaster of emotions that has left fans stunned, divided, and desperate for answers. From the shocking night of King's arrest to the explosive 5-year sentence, from T's furious outbursts to Tiny's tearful prayers, we've witnessed a family torn apart under the blinding glare of the spotlight. We've seen loyalty tested, relationships strained, and a young man forced to face the harshest reality of his life: But the biggest question remains: what comes next? Will T's relentless fight succeed in overturning the sentence? Or will King be forced to serve his full time behind bars? Will the family be able to heal from the fractures that have opened? Or will the pressure of fame and controversy finally break them for good? Only time will tell, and every twist in this saga promises to shock us even more. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you believe the judge's decision was fair? Or was King Harris targeted because of his name and his family's fame? Do you think T's campaign will change the outcome? Or is this a battle even the King of the South can't win? Your voice matters in this conversation, and we want to know your take. So if you've been gripped by this drama, don't forget to hit that like button to show your support. Subscribe so you never miss the next chapter in this unbelievable story. And drop a comment below with your thoughts. Should King be given another chance? Or is this the hard lesson he had coming? Join the discussion, because the story of T and King Harris is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next.